Let me put this very bluntly. Attempting a ceasefire in Gaza right now is pretty pointless. Ceasefires in general almost never succeeded in the past, and in this case particularly, it will be a sure way to get more people killed on both sides. Firstly, I want to bring to your attention this game theory concept called the credible commitment problem. Every international relations professor will talk about it at some point because it's such a fundamental explanation for human behavior. But unfortunately, cool kids don't care about social science, so you can't even find a Wikipedia page for it. If I had to say, things like this should be taught in preschools because it's so damn important. So let's assume both sides of a conflict want to stop fighting, which is a pretty naive assumption when it comes to Hamas, but let's humor it for the moment to illustrate the point. Let's say you are a cowboy in the Wild West and you are attending your sheep or whatever. And now you bumped into your arch enemy. You're facing each other, guns in holsters. Now, what's your strategy? You see, you have a dilemma here. If you draw your gun, you're forcing the other side to also draw his gun, and you lose the chance of walking away peacefully. But if you don't, the other guy may draw his gun anyway and enjoy the first mover advantage, and that split second can make a huge difference. Maybe you can walk away once or twice successfully by negotiating a ceasefire, but sooner or later one of you will get shot. Of course, the modern society is not the Wild West. Life is a lot easier because the ceasefire between you and the other knucklehead is enforced by a third party called the government. Even if you win the duel, you can expect some prison time. So the legal consequence makes it easier for you to make a credible commitment to peace. It's not because your ass is more trustworthy than the cowboys in the Wild West. It's because the third party restrains your behavior. So problem solved, right? But wait a minute, what if the governments themselves are the dueling cowboys? Firstly, how does the government prove to the other side that it wants peace? And even if you somehow proved it, how do you prove that you trust the other side to want peace? Because if you don't trust them, then whether you want peace or not won't matter. And how do they prove that they trust you to trust them? Because even if you trust them, if they don't believe you trust them, they will still expect you to shoot. You see the loop here? This is why a war normally won't end until one side is completely defeated. The combatants are simply not able to make credible commitments to each other without a third-party enforcer. It's nice of you to wish for a better result, but it's not gonna happen. And plus, there are other complications when enforcing a ceasefire. For instance, how can you tell which side violates the ceasefire first? The forensic evidence is not easy to come by in a war zone. This is not the world of Sherlock or Barnaby. Even if you don't hit first, you can still be accused of hitting first. So why bother not hitting first? Everything I said so far applies to normal risk-averse players who actually want to stop fighting. But in the case of Gaza, a ceasefire is even more useless because Hamas has no intention of stop fighting whatsoever. If you don't believe me, just ask yourself, what Israel can possibly do to persuade Hamas to stop the attacks? Just give me one example, come on. My guess is none. There isn't a single thing, I mean literally not a thing, that Hamas would accept as a peace offering. Let me know if you think of any. The attacks are doomed to happen. It's like some asteroid almost hitting the Earth. You can't just offer some gifts and wish it away. Why not? Because Hamas did not attack Israel for territorial gains. No matter which side you root for, you have to admit that empirically Israel hasn't lost a single war since its inception. And Hamas knew that, so it was not expecting any territorial gains in the first place. Some lower-level fighters might be pumped for victory because they don't read news or Wikipedia or the history. But higher-ups, like this rich dude, definitely knew from the very beginning that they would lose. They fought despite the full certainty of losing. It means they don't care about territories. So what did they care about? Well, it was mostly a fundraising operation. The only way for the Hamas leaders to get paid by Iran and possibly Russia was to conduct some eye-catching attacks. They won't get their sports cars for being good negotiators. Iran and Russia needed this war to happen. They're not gonna pay up if all they see is some fucking handshakes. So unfortunately, not only you won't see long-term peace, you won't even see short-term peace until Hamas's tunnels arsenals and financial channels are completely destroyed. You want to give it a pause? Well, Hamas will just accumulate more weapons and conduct an even bigger attack, because that means more Ferraris for their leaders. And Israel will be like, well, look what we got from the ceasefire. So they will just go ahead and fire even more missiles into Gaza. I know you love the word ceasefire for its rhetorical beauty and moral appeal, but the only problem is it will get more people killed.